Let them in 9th. I don't
No,
see.
no
I
way.
don't see. I think this is my really bold prediction here.
What have I just heard? What have I heard?
All right, here we go. The 24-25 A-League season is fast approaching. We've done the preview shows. We've listened to all the podcasts. It's time to put our necks on the line, dish out the hot takes, put in our predictions for what the final ladder positions will be. We're not worrying about finals today. That is a different beast in itself. Just the final ladder, who's going to win the premiership, who's going to win the spoon, and who's going to finish everywhere in between. We're going to start at the bottom, well, technically further down than the bottom. Auckland FC, the new kids on the block. Christian, where do you see them finishing in their inaugural A-League season?
I don't know where you guys have them, but I've got them in 6th in finals in their debut season, because you remember back to the Wanderers when they came in, no one expected them to reach the finals in their first season and have the campaign that they ended up having. And I think Steve Corica there, that experience is so vital for me. He knows what it takes to make finals in the A-League. He's got that experience under his belt. And I think this squad's well assembled to do some damage, honestly, moving forward. Maybe early on they might take a bit of time to settle in, but afterwards when they get going, I think they've got the potential to really make something of this season.
Paletti, I think this is kind of the middle of the road position for Auckland. I feel like people are going to be safe and put them in that middle zone. They do have a good squad, so they could be good, but they're obviously a new team, so they could be bad. I personally have them in 7th, just missing out on finals, but I think somewhere in that mid-pack is probably a good bet.
I've got them inside the top 6. I literally, not even 30 seconds ago, had them written down in 4th, and then I've got to second guess myself again. I just, you know what? I had it at first. I'm gonna stick them in 4th, even though it's gonna, based on the way I've got my ladder prediction, it's gonna rob us of a Sydney derby over 2 legs. But I think I can't keep second guessing myself. They're in 4th.
Okay, Paletti obviously putting a lot of thought into it. Jacob, where do you have Auckland?
I'm clearly not as high on them as everybody else, because I have them down in 9th, but that's perhaps because of some of the other choices I've made as to who will make finals. But just because they're a big unknown, we've not seen anything of them so far, so it's really difficult to make a prediction. Whereas, I've put teams that we have seen stuff from a little bit higher than them, so that's sort of my reasoning there.
Yeah, it's because obviously in the A-League, a lot of friendlies behind closed doors. Teams progress in the A-League. In the Australia Cup. We also have Asia as well. So I understand your point. There's lots of bias that does come through those preseason performances. If it wasn't abundantly clear already, we haven't made public our predictions to each other. So I think there will be some surprises along the way. Jacob, let's go to the Spooners from last season, Perth Glory.
Perth, yeah. See, this is one of the surprises. I've got them up into finals. I've got them finishing 6th. Which is going to surprise a lot of people, but I there's just something about them. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them the Lockie curse from last season, and they'll completely implode and miss out. But there's just something about them. I can't quite place it, and they're really exciting to me. And I think that they can cause quite a few upsets this season, and that'll be enough to get them up into finals. And then from there, who knows? You're only a couple of games away from the big ones. So yeah, I'm really excited by them.
I feel like there is a lot of hype around the Glory, and I feel like I'm trying to go against the grain a little bit. I've improved them because I think they will do better and they'll shock a few teams. I'm sitting them at 9th, an improvement, but I want to drag myself back from the hype that's getting thrown onto them, Paletti, because I feel like a lot of people are going a little bit too far.
I've got them in 7th. I think.
Okay.
And I think that's less about Perth than it is, as Jacob said, some of where I've got other teams. I think they'll be remarkably improved, and I think other teams will have a worse season than what we expect. And so, by default, the 2 greatest words in the English language, they'll rise a little bit further up the ladder. And so I've got them just missing finals, because I think going from the wooden spoon into the finals is just a little bit too far of a stretch for this Perth Glory side.
Yeah, for me, I've gone for Perth in 8th position. So, yeah, similar to most of you guys, I think, obviously there will be a massive improvement with the village there. I expect high intensity, high press, and it's going to be a completely different look, outfit and setup. But I think it is still early days, and like you said, we've got to pump the brakes a bit. And I think as long as they do improve from last season, and we do see signs of improvement there, I think it will be a successful season. Because for me, let's be honest, I don't think finals. No one will be shocked if they don't make it. So yeah, I've got them in 8th.
All right, mid-table seems the consensus for Perth Glory. Jacob, Western United.
This is a team that, I can't see them doing enough to get up the table from where they were last season. I have them finishing in the same spot. Well, relatively same spot, not spoon, but the one above it. So 12th, they obviously finished 11th last season, but 12th is the new 11th with the new team coming in. So I don't see them really improving. They've brought Ibasuki in, who's going to help them up front, but defensively, they've not done enough, I don't think, to help out the issues that they had there. John Aloisi's been pretty hit or miss over the last season and a bit as a coach as well. So yeah, I don't see them really improving all that much.
I might jump in there because I've got Western in 12th as well. I'm just shocked that they've kept John Aloisi. I understand the loyalty factor behind it, but I just feel as though his time's passed and they need new ideas. It's just a bit stagnant there. So, yeah, I don't see where... I know they've got Ibuzuki there. Obviously, the new signing, I expect good things from him. But besides that, in terms of where the goal is going to come from, I'm struggling to see answers there. So, yeah, I don't see a successful season for Western, unfortunately.
I have them in 12th as well. I just wanted to go in the hat trick there. I think it's a magic number. I don't think they've done enough. And look, I think it's unfortunate for Aloisi. It's going to be nice having games out at Tunneat, but I don't think it's going to be a great season.
Could be a quadruple hat trick.
Oh.
I was going to say, I think we're all going to be drastically wrong here because I've got them in the fake wooden spoon spot of 12th as well.
There we go.
So we're all going to be drastically wrong. In fact, what's going to happen is this video is going to end up like the Marconi video did. It's just going to be played throughout the season. These people didn't believe in you, but they don't want to win the entire thing.
Yeah, hello to all the players and coaches watching this video. Hope you're having a good time. Let's move up the table. Newcastle Jets Paletti.
Yeah, I have the Jets in 10th. I very much like the idea of new ownership for the Jets. I like a lot of... not improvements, but I like a lot of acquisitions they've made to their squad. I really think this is going to be a breakout season for Lockie Rose. My problem with and why I've got them in 10th is I think it's still the Jets, and there's just a little bit too much uncertainty in terms of how they're going to improve on the pitch, where the results are going to look like. Like that being said, this is a side that only made the grand final 6 years ago. 6 years is a long time in A-League football, though, and it's just the remnants of what was that squad are no longer there. And I think it's just I'd rather be leaning on the side of pessimism than optimism with this Jets squad, unfortunately.
Well, I'm going to ring out my spoon alert because that's where I have the Jets finishing bottom of the table. I just don't think they have the quality. They barely finished higher than this position in 10th last year. They've lost Apostolos Stamatopoulos and replaced him with Lockie Rose, who is at this point an unproven A-League regular striker. They have Wellisol, I believe his name is, the Brazilian, to come in, maybe can throw a few question marks out there. But, also losing Reno Piscopo to the Victory, that kind of move, I think, bottom of the table for me, Jacob.
I agree with you 100% there. Spooners for me. I think there's 3 or 4 sides that could win the spoon, but I think of those, Newcastle look the most obvious at this stage, so that's why I've gone with them. And yeah, I think you nailed it there, Lockie, with the fact that they've lost these really key players and haven't really been able to replace them in any meaningful way. And while the things Paletti mentioned, new ownership, some decent acquisitions on paper, that's all great, but I just don't think it'll come together for them this season.
I've got the Jets in last place as well. So, yeah, on a similar trajectory with our predictions so far, I just don't see how they're going to improve from last season, let alone I think they're going to regress, obviously, with this prediction here. I mean, if you sign Eli Adams from Victory, who for me, I wasn't overly impressed with his season. He had some bright patches, but besides Lockie Rose, I just don't see the acquisitions that are going to make them at least a mid-table team. So I've got them bottom.
All right. Well, you say not really any surprises so far. I'm going to throw one out at you here. We're going up to Brisbane Roar. Now, if you want to win these competitions, you have to make a bold move somewhere.
God.
And this is where one of my bold moves coming in. And we talked about this in more detail during our previews on the podcast and on the website. I'm penciling the Roar into 4th. Now, that is definitely optimistic, but the combination of their squad, they have some really interesting up-and-coming talent in terms of, Toby Waddingham, Quinn McNichol debuted last year, young Queenslanders. They've got a bunch of, A-League experience. They've brought in some from Adelaide United. And, they've retained Keegan Yelisic, who was exceptional when he came in towards the back end of last season. They've still got probably, at least for me, over the last 3 years, one of the best holding midfielders in the league in terms of Jay O'Shea and the way he progresses the ball forward. So, look, I think they're a mixed bag. They could do anything. They've got a few internationals. We talked about Stroik as well. It could be anything. It could be 10th. It could be top 4. So I'm taking a gamble on them, Paletti, and I'm saying the Roar in 4th.
I think it's time for a trip to any sort of fast food outlet since the plastic ban came in and get the wooden spoon out, because I've got them finishing 13th. Every year we have an A-League side that just drastically underdelivers on all of the expectations. We think they're gonna do well, and then it comes to getting onto the pitch, which I think will be an issue for Brisbane this season. And just absolutely collapsing. I think they're going to have a condensed schedule of points. I haven't seen the concert schedule besides the game that's already been moved. Suncorp has got All Elite Wrestling there in February. That could damage the surface as well. I'm sure there'll be other concerts there as well that is going to damage the surface. I think this is going to result in a bit of a condensed schedule. It's not a fun place to go and play. I mean, last year average attendance was 8,000 something or other in a. I should know this. Christian put it in his preview, which I've just edited before we started recording this. But it's a 50,000 seat stadium. It's just very empty, soulless atmosphere, and I just think it's going to lead to disaster.
I wonder, Jacob, where were they playing when they won those 3 premierships? I can't remember. Can you let me know?
Yeah, but look, I don't think they're going to be 4th quality. You mentioned that they've brought in a lot of A-League experience, which is true, but it's not necessarily good A-League experience. You've got Ben Warland coming in, who was part of that Adelaide defence last season and the season before. Harry van der Sar, who has a history of not playing because he's been injured, and Ben Halloran, who has a history of, at least since he returned to Adelaide, of just severely underperforming, something that Paletti just mentioned. So yeah, I don't see those 3 having the impact that I think you think they will, Lockie. And if they do, hey, I mean, good on them, I guess. And what does that say about Adelaide United, that they couldn't get that out of them? But I don't see it working out. And I have Brisbane in 11th. Not quite as low as Paletti, but I think they're one of the ones that are in contention for those lower spots.
Sorry, just before we go to Christian, let me get this straight, Lockie. So you think let me do the math, in 14 years' time, Ruben Zadkovic is going to be coaching in the Premier League? Because that's the time period you've compared him to.
No, because you talked about Suncorp Stadium being an obstacle. I don't remember them playing those grand finals at Perry Park all those years ago.
And Ruben Zadkovic is not Ange Postecoglou.
No, he's not, but he actually got a lot of wins towards the back end of last season.
The crowds were a lot bigger during the Raw Salona days than they were last season.
Yeah, because they were winning, Paletti. If they win this year, they're going to get some good crowds.
But they're not going to. That's the point.
Well,
they didn't win last season. They're not going to win this season. The crowds are going to stay away because no one wants to turn up when there's a thunderstorm in southeast Queensland, which seemed to be twice a week in the middle of summer, and they're watching Dower football. It's not going to happen.
All right. Well, the proof will be in the pudding. Obviously, it looks like, Christian, that the Roar are going to be quite a determining factor.
Oh, it seems like it from the sounds of it. But yeah, with Brisbane, I mean, look, I've got them in 11th. So, I mean, look, I did the season preview for them. They do have some some good players coming through. But Jacob mentioned before, I think it was before the pot, how they've brought in all these Adelaide defenders, and that might not bode as well for them, considering, what happened last season and their defensive record. But I mean, expect Harry van der Sarg to play in a more advanced midfield role out wide, because Zadkovic in the Australia Cup went with the back three to start. So if he continues with that, I think Brisbane just need a bit of time to get their ideas across, because they've got the concepts and the ideas and the players to do it. It's just, I don't see them being consistent for the whole season. Like, there will be a couple of upsets like last season when we talked about Brisbane, but yeah, I've got them in 11th. I don't see much from them.
Fascinating. I think you're all severely underestimating them, but time will tell. Jacob, let's go to your town, the Adelaide United.
Yes, the Reds. I'm not as down on them as I was a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago. From what I've seen in the Cup, there's been some good performances, but I'm still not convinced with the lack of depth that the side has, and the fact that one or two injuries and, you end up playing 15-year-olds in the back line, which is not exactly a recipe for success. And yet to see Bart Vriends even step on the pitch. He's still injured and by the sounds of it won't be ready for round 2 when the Reds play the Mariners for the first game of the season. So look, I think there's some quality talent in the Adelaide side, but depth is a massive issue. And Colvier, I just don't think he has the ability to do. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I haven't seen him have that ability to make adjustments during a game to make the difference and get results over the line. It's instead been, these things like, having quality substitutes to bring on, which isn't necessarily going to be the case this season. So I have Adelaide just finishing one step above Brisbane in 10th.
I have them in 11th, Christian. They were kind of one of these filler teams for me. I had a spot open, and it seemed like that was a nice place for them to sit.
In the same camp as Jacob, I've got Adelaide in 10th. So, I mean, maybe a slight improvement from last season, but again, with the departures, Iran Kunda in particular, obviously you're going to see more youth come through the ranks and see, a couple of bright prospects, but that's not going to be enough ultimately to make a real dent in terms of finals football. I could have easily put them lower, but apparently I've got a soft spot for Adelaide, as I predicted them to come in second last season during our Christmas predictions. But no, I've got them in 10th.
Legs 11 for me. I just don't. I think Jacob's pessimism is rubbing off on me, I should say. I don't see where the goals are going to come from. I don't see where the goals are going to be stopped from going into their own net. This side just does not fill me with any confidence whatsoever, and I think it's going to be a very long season in the City of Churches.
All right, we're getting up towards the finals positions now. Just missed out last year, Christian, the Western Sydney Wanderers.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Here we go.
I've got the Wanderers finishing first as champions.
What, first?
Wow.
Yeah. So I know for the past few weeks we've been saying that Sydney and Victory are the two front runners, which, I definitely agree with that sentiment. But I think we are definitely sleeping on the Wanderers. And I mentioned this in my preview piece ahead of the upcoming season. I think this environment, Statues, is really going to thrive. And it's not just because obviously they've got the marquee signing in Juan Mata, because, Sydney have got Douglas Costa. So I'm not, that's not really heavily weighted in terms of that, but just the balance of the squad, I really do like. And I think Stajic, with his sort of balanced tactical approach, I think he can definitely get the best out of this group. And Nicholas Milanovic, in the wide areas in midfield and, combining in that attacking third, I think he's going to be really instrumental as to how far this Wanderers team can go. And I just think it's going to be the Wanderers year, because, in past seasons under Marco Rudan and previous coaches, they just haven't been able to click. But I think under Stajic that they can make a real go at it.
Well, that is certainly surprising. I think the Wanderers have enough quality in this era of the A-League to just force wins at certain points. I have them sneaking into finals in 6. I know a lot of people have talked, maybe not first, but in that conversation as like the top 3 with Sydney and Victory. Personally, I'm just not convinced. I think they have a good forward line, but Antonsen was not that amazing last season. Milanovic is a star. One Matters is a star. Borello suffers from injury, but hopefully he can get back to it. But I look at their defense and they've lost Marcelo. I know they've brought in Taywuk, but I think the defense is the question mark for me, Jacob. And so that's why I have them down in 6th.
I had them 6 as well at the start of this recording, and I've changed them. Not 6, sorry. I had them in 7th, and I've actually changed them to 4th. Now, I just think that you mentioned, Lockie, they have that talent to be able to just force wins. And I think that in such a short season as it is with the A-League, that's huge. To be able to get those wins in those situations is going to be massive for them. And there's just there's a bit of a vibe around the Wanderers at the moment. Obviously, with One Matter, that helps. But, sort of since Rudan's departure, it does feel like that they've been working hard on sort of reinvigorating the image of the club, and Stajic is going to come in, and that's sort of what he does as a coach and has always done throughout his career, has been able to sort of reset the culture at a club. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity for them, where in a season where a lot of the clubs are having their squad skew much younger and bringing in much more youth, there's a few teams, obviously Sydney and Victory we mentioned, but the Wanderers are one of them as well, where they've looked at it and gone, well, this is a chance for us to put in a really solid side and potentially take advantage of that. So yeah, I think 4th. I agree with you, Lockie. Defensively could be a bit of a problem for them. It was a problem for them last season as well. But there's just a vibe about them. Perhaps it's a bit like Perth. I'm voting too much with my heart more than my head. But yeah, I've got them in 4th.
Look, I think that Saturdays are going to get them back to finals football. I did say earlier I was with Auckland. It's like I had them in 4th, and I was going to move them down, and I moved them back. It's because I was considering swapping them with the Wanderers. I've got the Wanderers in 5th. I think they'll get into finals football. I think they're going to have to go the long way. They're going to have to be on the road for basically every single game if they want to win the big one. I really like what Stajic can do with this side. I think that it's a rejuvenated side, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing it play out on the pitch.
All right, into the top 6, Melbourne City. Now, this is one of the teams that I have as a slider, and I've actually slid them all the way down to 10th, which may be a big call because as the City Football Group, they've never missed a final series before. But I look at their team that barely scraped into it last season. You lose your all-time games played in terms of Curtis Good, who was a rock at the heart of defence. You've lost the best player in the league in Tolgai Arslan, and you've lost your best ever goal scorer and the league's best ever goal scorer in Jamie McLaren. So obviously, City have this recruiting network. They can bring players in that we haven't really seen yet. Who knows what they're going to produce? But Jacob, I think you've lost 3 really, really good players. I think you're going to suffer.
Yeah, and I didn't see enough from them at the end of last season that gave me the confidence that they would be able to sort of overcome that. They do sort of feel like they're on a bit of a downturn. And look, every team has to go through them eventually. City have somehow managed to avoid it for a very, very long time and have been consistently one of the top sides in the league. But it happens to everyone at some point, and I think this is their season. And I don't have them as low as you, obviously, because I've got Adelaide down there, but I do have them finishing in 8th and missing finals.
Yeah, look, I think City are just going to stay exactly where they are. I think the fact that, like the stat that you mentioned, they haven't missed the final since City Football Group took over, since they've been Melbourne City. I don't see them going back anywhere near the Melbourne Heart days of finishing at the bottom of the ladder. I think that they will just stay exactly where they are, and they'll just sneak into finals, and might go out week 1. They might scrape their way through to a semi-final, but it's not going to be a pretty season for City.
Yeah, I think City were very fortunate last season to scrape into finals. I think that was partly down to the Wanderers capitulating towards the end, and they were very fortunate to sneak in. But I don't see the improvement. I'm with you, Lockie, that you've lost 3 quality players. Obviously, again, Max Caputo was supposed to step in for McLaren. He's out for a substantial period of time now. So in terms of replacements in the squad depth, that's what we raved about City in previous years, the depth, the ability to rotate and change up the squad. But this season, I really struggle to see them finishing high up the table, and I actually have them in 9th place.
Okay, sliding as well. Top 5, Paletti, the Bulls.
Yeah, I think the Macarthur are going to get up to 3rd. I think they're still going to have to go the long way around, but I think they'll very much get the chance to do so at home for at least 2 of their games, and then results will determine whether they need it for a 3rd. Look, I see Macarthur, we mentioned in our round 1 predictions as well as our season preview, an improved side. There's a lot of good signings. I'm very much excited to see how Stojovski takes his squad forward. I see just optimistic times in Campbelltown.
Yeah, I've actually got Macarthur in fourth, so I was tossing and turning to whether to put him fourth or third. Ultimately, I think that Australia Cup final really it gave me the confidence that this Macarthur side are really going to have a positive season. Stojovski, I love what he's doing with this side. They've got a really cool group now. Jermaine was even playing in that final, and Macarthur looked, really solid, despite, obviously taking a more defensive approach, but on the counter attack with Yakulos, I think. This team can be very deadly, and expect them to make some noise come finals time.
It's interesting you say that, Christian, because that cup final solidified a lot of things for me as well, and not in the same way that you did. Because you take Jermaine out of that game, they produced absolutely nothing. Like, they literally produced absolutely nothing. They had Jed Drew get in behind when Jason Gary was sleeping a little bit and messed up his lines. Apart from that, they were not dangerous at all. So I think that can get you wins in cup competitions, as we've seen for the Bulls over the last couple of years. But I think over the course of a league, they're going to suffer. I still think that because of the experienced A-League quality they brought in, Luke Bratton is the headliner for me. Philip Curto is an exceptional goalkeeper. They still will play finals football, but I'm going 1, 2, 3. I have them in fifth, dropping down positions, just like you, Jacob.
Yeah, no, I've got them in the same spot. I do think that their style of play will help them grind out, draws when they should potentially lose and, maybe hold on to those 1-0 leads. But I don't see them being able to put the foot down and beat teams convincingly. And over, like you mentioned, Lockie, over the course of the season, you need to be able to do that. And I think they'll sneak in and take fifth spot, but I don't see them, challenging really those top sides.
All right, Sky Blues.
I've got them in second. I think that they're going to jump up. I think what we're going to see is Tally's into his second season. I think if Sydney had have made the change from Corica in the off season, if they had have just completely started the season fresh, I think this is where we would have seen Sydney last season. I think they started off the season a little bit too slow under Corica to sort of claw back that damage. I think they're going to be straight from the get-go. I know it's ACL too, but I've been very impressed with how they've looked so far. They took a very young squad against an experienced Oakley side into the Australia Cup. A lot of players who hadn't necessarily played with each other or were coming off NPL men's seasons where, memory serves me correctly, they barely avoided relegation to the League One men's. So I think this is very much going to be a rejuvenated Sydney squad, and they're going to prove a lot of people wrong.
Interesting. I think, a lot of people have been putting the Sky Blues up towards the pointy end. They are my premiers. I have the Sky Blues sitting top of the tree. That first game against Eastern in the ACL2 on the first match day, I know it's against lesser opposition, but the way the front four connected, and then you've got Caceres and Senna in the base of midfield as well, they're going to score so many goals if those players are fit. And there's a few question marks over the defence, but when you have an attack like that, I just think they're going to be too good over the course of the season. Their quality is just, again, another step above.
I agree with you, Lockie. I've got Sydney in second place. So I think it's going to be a Sydney derby in terms of that top two position.
Right.
Like you mentioned, I think the ACL tour has really confirmed that, this team can click into gear so early, and then given, the first few games into the season, what they can do, the damage that they can cause when they do come into sync fully, it's going to be, a really scary sight. And I don't have as much concerns about the defensive side, because up front, they can get away with the most games, and they'll be just fine, I reckon. So, I've got them in second.
I've got them same spot as Lockie, finishing top of the table. I think that they just look the most well-rounded side of the whole lot. So at this stage, they're the ones that make the most sense for me to put at the number one spot.
All right, there you go. We've got a couple of tips there. I think, Pallady, you're the only one not to name your champion just yet. We'll get to it, I'm sure. Christian, though, Melbourne Victory finished third last year.
Yes, and I've got them third again this year. So the reason why I put Sydney just above Victory is because of Ufuk Talay and his I guess, imprint on this team. Given the previous months, Patrick Kisnorbo coming in as a new coach, I do think it will take a bit of time for Victory to get those results that they need. A lot of pressure on Kisnorbo as well, given the fact that a section of the supporters didn't really fancy him, given his history with City. So there is a lot of early pressure on Kisnorbo. I think the squad has improved from last season. Nikos Vergos, expect him to have a really good season. I know there's been a couple of departures in there as well, but I think that midfield pairing of Jordi Valadon and Ryan Teague is arguably, I'd probably put them as the best midfield in the league. It's close, but given last season, I was very impressed, especially with Ryan Teague and Valadon. Valadon scored that great goal against Adelaide in the Australia Cup. He can, play, both sides of the ball, defense and attack, and they just link up really well together. So, yeah, there's a lot of positives. Obviously, Mitch Langerak as well comes in January, so that's another added boost for them. But in the early stages, expect a few hiccups, but I've got them in third.
Yeah, I have Victory in second. It was a toss-up between them and the Sky Blues for the top spot for me. They have lost Damian De Silva and Paul Izzo, who were big losses. Obviously, they get Langerak back, but in terms of a league table, they still have to survive those first few months. Not survive, but Jack Duncan in there. It will be an upgrade when Langerak comes along. Brandon Hamble is an apt replacement, but obviously not to the standard that De Silva was, who won 2 best and fairest in a season and a half, which is a very impressive stat. But look, Kisnorbo is a winner. He knows how to win. Victory have kept most of their players, Jacob. I think they're destined to be towards the top, but I have them just missing the pinnacle.
It really pains me to say it, but I think Victory are going to have a fantastic season. And they've been looking like they're getting closer and closer and closer every season, sort of building up to this. And I mentioned it before with the Wanderers, but a lot of clubs are skewing much younger now. And Victory and Sydney are the two that really stand out as having gone for experience and quality over everything else. And I've recognised this as a chance to, I guess, sort of really dominate the league. And yeah, I think Victory, the incomings that they've had are already look pretty solid. I mean, Vergos sort of came in a nobody and looked decent in the cup. Christian mentioned that midfield partnership, which has been very, very strong for the Victory as well. So yeah, I've got them finishing second. I do think Sydney, just in terms of raw quality on paper, are the better side. So that's why I've got them ahead. But over the course of the season, it wouldn't shock me to see Victory jump Sydney. But just for now, I'm going to have them finishing in second.
Maybe, just maybe, I'm putting a little bit too much stock into the Australia Cup. They beat up on NPL opposition. They struggled when it came to taking down A-League opposition in Adelaide United and Macarthur. PK already looks like he started to lose the dressing room a little bit with this whole Arzani situation. The official line of experimentation is what it is. I think we all have our thoughts on that. I've got them in ninth. I don't see.
No
I
way.
don't see.
No
I think
way.
this is my really bold prediction here, and it's because I really didn't have any.
Heard? What have I heard?
I didn't really have anywhere else. I didn't have anywhere to put them inside the top 6. I just with who I've got.
Paletti's written their list in like permanent marker, and just you can't move anything around afterwards.
No, I'm tired of second guessing myself and being right the first time, so I'm just going to keep going with it. I think that
this could end up like Christian's Adelaide.
Yeah, this will be. This absolutely will be. Look, I think that Victory are due for a poor season, and I know they've only just had some, but I think this whole Kisnorbo thing, that already losing the dressing room, the blow up with Arzani, everything about this is just giving me bad juju when it comes to the Victory. So that's why I've got them in ninth. I'm just
due for a poor season.
The positive to come out of this, Lockie, it's a good edit video for X tomorrow. Because this is going to be a talking point for sure.
That's going to be great when they win the league. Look. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of credit. I feel like if things go bad at Victory, it's going to be off the pitch, right? And if that does happen, then they're going to drop a lot more positions than when things go a little bit bad on the pitch. So that's a massive drop-off. Maybe they could teeter towards, 5th and 6th for me, maybe. That's bold. Fair play to you. Let's go to the Wellington Phoenix. They finished runners-up last year. I know a lot of people are dropping them down. They did lose some great young quality. Alex Paulson, Ben Old and the likes, Finn Sermon as well as the MLS. I'm backing them. And I'm not just backing them, but I'm backing Chiefy. I have them to finish third, just behind the Big Blue pairing. I just have so much stock in Italiano as a coach. He's been able to go and recruit a couple of players, that Japanese pair as well. Just so versatile and be able to play the way he wants to. So maybe the quality of the individual players dropped off slightly, perhaps trending towards more of his style of football, though. They went international to get a goalkeeper because they didn't have a profile of one domestically that was available. So I think they're switched on. I think an off-season under Italiano must be a very enlightening experience for a player. You're learning a lot of stuff. So Jacob, I have a lot of trust in him. So top 3 for me.
Yeah, looks like we've got the same top 3 there then, because I've also got Wellington in third, and for the same reason, I just really like Italiano. Even not as a coach, he just seems like a great bloke to have a chat with, and he's just again, this is the third club where I'm going to mention it, but vibes, where just the vibes seem good in Wellington at the moment, and with Auckland coming in as well, they can't really rest on their laurels, right? They've got to push on and have a good season and show Auckland, hey, no, we're still the best team here in New Zealand. So I think that'll sort of stoke the fires a little bit as well. And yeah, I do like Italiano's adaptability. We saw it when they were playing at home versus playing away, and he's going to have to adapt again this season with a different squad. And you mentioned Lockie perhaps trending a bit more towards his sort of final vision for the club and what he wants to be doing, but still that's maybe 1 or 2 years away in his own admission. So I think third is a reasonable spot to have them.
Paletti, I'm scared to ask now.
Well, I've got 2 spots left. I've got number 1 and I've got number 8. And drum roll, please.
Number 1.
There's number 1.
Number 1, Wellington is wonderful. I'm backing Giancarlo Italiano. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I think that he got so close last season, just sort of fell away just a touch towards the end. I think now he knows exactly what he has to do to beat the rest of the league. I think he's recruited incredibly well, and I very much see Wellington getting their first piece of A-League silverware.
A little bit of a spoiler as to how far down you've dropped the Mariners, but Christian, round us off.
Yeah, Phoenix I've got in 5th position, and that's not a knock on them as such. It's more because of the quality that the other teams have brought in. I just think that's going to elevate them past the Phoenix, but I'm with you all. I think Italiano, I've got so much stock in him as well as a manager, and no matter what squad I feel as though he has this disposal, he's always manages to get the best out of them. And so despite these departures that he's going to suffer from, I think, the acquisitions of a Rojas, for example, he's going to be able to get the best out of these types of players in the system that he prefers. And just the versatility about him, I think it's going to really serve them well for another stint of finals football. But yeah, I've got them in 5th.
Well, on the theme of overreacting to pre-season, we know Paletti has slipped the Mariners down from the Premier's plate to 8th position. But Paletti, I'm backing you up right on the money. 8th spot is, for me, for the Central Coast as well. I think the narrative and the story around the Mariners is this, early season slump into the redemption arc. I don't think it can happen 2 years in a row. They've lost year on year their best players again and the spine of their team. And I'm really worried, especially about the start of the season with no Daniel Vukovic, no Trent Sainsbury in that back line. It's just, I don't see a leader there. I really worry about it. So yeah, all the way out of finals for me.
Yeah, I very much agree, but I think I agree for different reasons. I think, like I said, I've got them in 8th. It's just, they've started the season poorly. It's just probably too much to overcome to continue to overachieve for where the club stands. And I think after the written prediction went live on the Ramble Australia website, obviously the news over the weekend, Richard Peel is stepping away, which is basically handing control of the club back to Mike Charlesworth. We remember what happened when Charlesworth was running the show. The purse strings got tightened. The budgets went down. I think doing it again is just going to be one step too far for the Mariners. And I just don't see it all going well on the pitch, unfortunately.
I've got the Mariners 1 spot ahead in 7th place. They'll just miss out on finals. Yeah, I'm with you both. It looks like a miracle for them to repeat their heroics in the past 2 seasons, really. But at the same time, I'm skeptical to to count them out because you've said, Lockie, like you're just scared to do it because they've proven us wrong so many times. But I think the Asian Champions League elite will really prove us that once bridge too far and they won't be able to recoup, whether that be, suffering from injuries or travel. I know the AFC Cup, they won the treble, with the domestic leagues and stuff as well. But I just think it's going to be a stretch too far for them. And I could be wrong. We all could be wrong. It could be, Mariners win the championship again, but I really doubt it this season. So yeah, I've got them in 7th.
Jacob, we're giving them exactly what they want. We're writing them off at the start of the season. We weren't supposed to do this.
No, that's right. Well, I was going to have them sneaking into the 6, because I do think that Mark Jackson's a fantastic coach. I think he knows how to get the best out of the players that he has, and we've seen passages of play in the Asian Champions League elite where I was like, that's some really good football there, and it's just been little mistakes and tweaks with the system defensively that haven't quite worked out. So I do think that there's still a really good team there, but I couldn't have them sneaking into the finals and also have Perth making them. So I've had to just boot them down again. I'm in the same spot with Christian. I have them there in 7th. I do think that they're a good side. I do agree with all of you that they probably won't reach the highs that they have done over the last couple of seasons, but I don't think I'm quite as pessimistic on them as you guys are, because I do still see a decent side in there. It's just the case of how the rest of the picks that I've made have fallen, that they end up outside the finals.
Yeah, I think I probably a few weeks ago when I started thinking about this, I probably had them just in the 6 as well, in that 5-6 mark, and then maybe some of those preseason results, wanting to push a couple other teams, as you say, into finals, they slipped down for me. But I definitely think, as you say, Mark Jackson's a good coach. He'll have them playing good football at times, hopefully, depending on the situation, but definitely a team that could still make finals anyway. There you go. There are our 1 to 13s. We've also got submissions in on the screen now, so officially out there in the ether. Go wild. I hope none of our faces are in any locker rooms around the A-Leagues this season, but go for your life, do whatever you want. It's part of the fun.
Please don't ask me.
What do you? We're interested to see what other people think as well. Of course, the conversation's been going on for Twitter for weeks, but very keen to get the league underway, and we'll revisit this at the end of the season and see who was on the money. We'll see you then.